superhero role playing that's contemporary. I love all of it. You just go and you just learn and learn and learn. And
Yep.
I personally consider it very enriching. I've learned an immense amount about the world just by
Yep.
playing superhero games, right?
No, just yeah, role playing in general. I mean, that's how that and comic books is how I expanded my vocabulary.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's like, what is a rogue?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Stand
there's an
yes.
X-Men character named that, and D&D stuff.
Hmm.
What is a rogue? Yeah, it's like, but no, I agree with you on that one. It
Well,
does teach.
so if we have, okay, so what are your thoughts then as we move into play, as we, you know, the session zero, as you say, kind of did what it was supposed to do. Um, what are your yeah? What are further thoughts from sort of a design perspective as to what went on?
Just for me, it's to make some things more implicit in the rules. Get rid of like some of the ambiguity, and just to go through, like as we were playing, as I'm playing the rules that I wrote.
No, tell me about it.
You're
Yeah.
playing, yeah, and you're like, okay, that can be actually done better.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds great in my head, but when I actually go to execute,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work as well as I wanted it to, or it works ridiculously well and does something that I didn't want it to do.
Right. Right.
So let me go
Oh,
back
look,
and
that went fine, but not what I wanted.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So like for instance, the event, the amount of like renown that you guys got from that event. Um, in hindsight, it was way too much, especially for the advancement mechanic.
Right. So
Essentially,
right.
it put you 50% toward an advancement, just that one event. And granted, the event itself was, a big event. I mean, you guys basically stopped the middle of the town from like, burning up and collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
But
But it's not worth an entire half of the next go.
right,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
because the way it's structured, the way events work is that the way it's written, you shouldn't have more than one in any given game. So there should be one thing that if you put it in there, there's one event. And if you put one event in each game, you don't actually have to do the adventures. Just let's
Right.
sit here, do the event, and level up. And
Right. Right.
you
No,
know,
I got you.
so
I see your point. So okay, so that was one thing, and then there's a couple points about uh, how our characters did or didn't communicate. I found myself kind of wondering when and how we would put our heads together either for that kind of expository dialogue, which that's where the players figure out what they want to do. So,
right,
the bit where I do the mind probe thing and we actually got some piece of the awful thing, right? Or
right,
a point when um, a point where the Kieran's character does one of his water tricks, and maybe that can set up something that one of the others can do. There in comics, you often have a character saying something relatively non-naturalistic
right,
that communicates to the reader that so and so is bright enough to see what I just did, so that they're going to do it. And it might be the other character saying, I can do this, right, because of
right,
so and so's water blast. Or it could be dialogue between the characters where one of them says, it's all you now, go, right, and
right,
then
right,
we see the guy do what he's going to do. And the reason I'm saying this is because that glue in comics helps you interpret, the static images,
right,
of what they are snapshots of. And in role playing, I've found, especially with superhero stuff, creating that kind of glue or bridge, right? You do something and then you sort of lay down the bridge to, for the other guy to run across, or the other
Right.
guy's like ooh 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 and puts the bridge down like back toward what you did. Either one.
Right.
And the point is that it's communication between the players about that is very exciting. It means, wow, he listened. That guy listened to what I just did. And he's like busy
Right.
imagining. Okay, so my character can do this now, right? And it's exciting. It lets you know that everybody's with you on this. And so different superhero games have different communication methods. The one I preserved from original Champions into Champions Now is, of course, the entirely unrealistic no time dialogue.
Yep.
Word balloon, thought balloon takes no game time. I don't care. Is it stupid? Yes, we don't care because we need the
Right.
exposition, we need the reflection, we need the communication of this kind, we need all that. And in this game, there were a couple of points where I was kind of like, well, he did his thing and he got his points. That moved us this many points forward. Okay, my turn. And I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm starting off like flat footed. I'm starting off from a standing start. Does that make any sense?
Right.
Yeah.
No,
So,
I get what you're saying.
so what
You're
the
looking for, oh no, I was just going to say something like some type of maybe a synergy mechanic
I'm not
where,
actually. I mean, I'm talking more about a synergy communication because a
okay,
mechanic won't make it happen.
right,
There has to be some sort of available context for how the players talk to each other, more or less as character dialogue. But I say more or less because sometimes you find
right,
yourself hopping into the other character's head and saying, "Oh, I bet you realize you could do this" or something like that, right? I mean, it's real. It's in
right,
that zone of role playing that nobody likes to talk about, where everybody says I play my character, and then if you watch people do it, you realize that no, they're not. They're playing into each
right,
other's heads all the time, and so there's something about the the whatever the rule is for how characters talk.
okay,
It's kind of like do if we're in an event and I have my turn and I do my thing, is there some sort of I mean, am I allowed quote setup dialogue, or are players, the group, just sort of allowed setup dialogue? You see, the trouble is you don't want to create a black hole where everybody falls into and endlessly negotiates what's to do next, right?
right,
That's why I'm trying to avoid a sort of phase or something like that. This sort of thing
right,
only
yeah,
works when you just blurt it out.
right,
And given the three players that we had, the fact that we didn't blurt that stuff out should tell you something, right? Because who else
right,
aren't we all three like into that, right? By default,
right,
we're three people who totally we live and breathe that kind of thing during role playing, but we didn't do it. We just took our turns and
right,
got the points, right?
right,
So whatever
yeah,
it is you want to make of that is what I'm saying. That's I step away. I don't have a suggestion. That's where you go. What shall I do? Right. So
yeah. No, I've got an idea of how to illustrate it as
yeah.
actually just an actual a play example
Mm-hmm.
that shows I guess where the captions go. You know what I mean?
You could even call it captioning if you wanted to.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought about it, and what I'm thinking is just going a step further and just having a comic page done up of an event, and then just going in and in the captions, it's like this event basically took like an hour, and
Right.
in that hour, people have to talk.
Yeah.
Um,
So
even though like it only took I think what 15 minutes, the whole event from
really,
beginning to end. I think
we'll see. I think it
I
took
don't
longer,
think
but
it was
okay.
that long.
Yeah, it wasn't.
You
But
know what? Maybe it was.
Mhm.
I'll have to go back and watch the video and see, but
Yeah,
it didn't seem that long as far as
I agree. It
an
really
actual
wasn't the
piece of play.
longest. It wasn't. It wasn't too long. We'll. I haven't edited that one yet, but we'll. It was somewhere in the 2 hour block, and it certainly wasn't all of it. Um,
Yes.
so okay. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to leave you with a couple of those to sort of muse over and decide what you want to do with them. Um, Kind of curious about a couple of other things that, again, in fact, I have no comment on these, but I found the dialogue at the very end between my character and General or Captain Long,
Yeah,
whatever it is,
Colonel. What
Colonel
was it?
Long,
I can't remember it. Yeah.
right? That the dialogue, I think also all of us were just freaking tired at that point. I could just see it 2 hours, right? We are all just starting to drain a bit.
Right.
But so I want, when you get a chance to look at that one, which I'm editing now, that's when you can say, okay, now how do we work off of these mechanics? How do we work off of what just happened? How do we do the role playing? How does that work? Um, and see what you think. Only because
Yeah.
I didn't think it was like the best role playing I didn't think it was the best role playing I'd ever done, and so therefore
Right.
you to kind of look at that and say, all right, now how did this come about? What's going on with this? Is
Right.
it is
I
it a,
think
is
it's
it a concern or not? Right.
yeah. I,
Yep.
I think it's the last part of that I think was pacing and me looking for a place to wrap up.
Right. Right.
Um, trying to find like a point where we could stop, where it's not a jagged or ragged edge,
Right.
where it's like, okay, we can pick up from here, as opposed to, something comes up out of the thing and grabs you, and it's like,
Right.
okay, so where do we pick up from that?
Right. Right.
You know,
So that's an interesting point too, though, is what is the nature of the ending of a session, and especially
right,
since you are not playing my planned climax at the 2/3 point of every single session, the GM initiates the climactic fight, and when
right,
the last bad guy's face hits the dirt, we know it's the end of this fight and the end of the session, right? I mean,
right,
there are people who play that way, and their sessions clock in at 3 hours and 1 minute, to the
right,
minute every single time. They know exactly when they're going to start the climactic fight. They got a pretty good idea of the statistical grinds down between the heroes and the villains, how long that's going to
right.
take. And so they play their session according to a pretty set schedule. Well, you're not doing that. You're not doing that at all.
No, no,
So, right, you're not doing that. So that means that all of a sudden the notion of, okay, so what are ending points for sessions? Particularly because, if I'm not mistaken, and I've been learning this the hard way in Champions now, big time lately. If I'm not
okay,
mistaken, Godsend Agenda benefits from going ahead and stopping play when you're still ahead, right? When you're still fired up. Everybody's going to say, "Oh, stop now."
right,
And maybe that's it's a lot better to stop then. I'm not saying this is universal for role playing. I'm saying for this particular game, there's a
right.
sort of
Yeah,
benefit on stopping on the, while you're still pumped, right?
yep.
So,
No,
um,
that's the way, to me, as far as like media is concerned, books, movies. When a movie is good and a movie ends, you're still watching the movie in your head.
right,
You
right,
are still, it's like you're savoring the flavors of whatever delicious food you just ate, and you ate it an hour ago, but you can still taste like
right.
that curry or whatever it is, and you're like, that was great. A movie, same way. And I've even done that with books, like that literal stereotypical thing where you finish reading and you set it to your chest.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.